Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and KUAR-FM 89.
And hello again, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us. Abortion. Hardly anything else comes close to the controversy that still surrounds the issue some 50 years after the Supreme Court declared it a constitutional guarantee. Abortion is very much a part of this year's Arkansas legislative agenda, and we'll get to that in just a moment. First, education, and to what extent public dollars should be steered to private schools. A bill before this year's General Assembly would set aside about $4 million for a few less, about 600 scholarship pupils. Its sponsors, the legislation sponsors, say it's about helping kids who need it the most and who aren't being served under the existing system. But as in the two previous legislative sessions, there is significant opposition from public educators. Joining us now is the sponsor of this year's version, Representative Ken Bragg, Republican of Sheridan, and Representative Reginald Murdock, Democrat of Marianna. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming aboard. Mr. Bragg, let's begin with you. Why this bill? Why now? Why can't the existing system be used to serve these youngsters?
Well, this bill is about opportunity, and as you said, it has two components: one for the private school, one for the public school. But I believe all children deserve an education that best meets their needs. And in the public, first of all, let me explain. I'm a huge supporter of public schools. I think public education is the backbone of our education system, and always will be and always should be. But it's just that one size doesn't fit all. Parents need a choice. Sometimes there's a situation where a child just might not be getting what they need in their education experience. It could be something like special needs. I know schools are equipped to handle a lot of special needs, but sometimes they just aren't able to meet that particular need of that particular child. It could be instances of bullying. It could be personalities. Sometimes they just need a different environment. And I can't remember where I read this statement, but it said education is an experience and not a location. So sometimes they just need a different environment. Families with higher incomes have that opportunity to make that choice to send their kid to a private school. But families with lower incomes, they're not able to do that. And that's really what this bill is intended. Very limited scope. We need to understand that. Very limited scope as far as the number of students involved. But it just gives families of lower income a chance to do that. Likewise, on the public sector, there are schools that have needs. And this bill also provides a $6 million fund where an individual school, if they have over 55% of their student population in the free and reduced lunch program, they can apply for specific grants, for their school. And this could cover anything from facility needs, technology needs, enhanced training for teachers. One thing I'm really excited about is we just amended the bill to include workforce development needs that could supply materials, supplies, and equipment. A lot of high schools now are really emphasizing workforce development programs, and this would go a long way towards providing grants for specific equipment. So that's basically what we're intended to do, is to meet some very specific needs that might not be met in a public school.
Well, Mr. Murdock, let me go to you for your take. You're skeptical, I think.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. And understanding, I've heard the argument many times, but what the argument never seems to fully acknowledge, is I'm gonna say, unintended consequences of such programs of these, which are basically vouchers that allow separation, and it allows for a proliferation of resources away from the public school. When we acknowledge, and as we have done through our various consultants and others that have done assessments of the public school and schools and delivery of education in Arkansas, it clearly says that we should take our resources. We should leave them in the public school. We should use those resources to make us better. What Representative Bragg is presenting, we already have specifically for special needs students, the opportunity for them to go to special situations to get help in special situations. But the bigger picture of what this will do is, again, it will cause segregation and separation. It would allow for the what's left concept of our society. We're going to take, and for a portion, we're going to give them this opportunity to leave and go somewhere else, versus us making and using our energy, our resources, our capital, our influence, our political power, everything that we have now. We can make this state much better educational wise. We can supplement correctly those that are without, and make sure that we do the things from a program standpoint to provide better educational outcomes by utilizing our resources inside of our public schools, which will also make our communities what they should be, better economically. The economic development piece, I like that piece. I like several pieces Representative Bragg is in this bill, but what I want to see it done with it is let's focus it on the public school system. Let's not take it away. Let's not use it as a separation or a tool to separate us from one another. Let's utilize it to make us better as we are.
Well, your colleague seems to be saying that the existing system isn't working for these young people. Why not?
Well, it's not working for various reasons. And so the accountability factor is something that I certainly believe in. And I think because if you hear me clearly, Odin and Pikus and our most recent group of consultants, we have done assessments of the education delivery system, specifically in our underperforming schools that this bill focuses on. What we have not done, Steve, is we have not done a good job of going back and really fortifying those school districts, as the consultants, the assessments have said. That don't just mean money. That means accountability for resources, for dollars, making sure that we have facilities, programs, instructional tools present, holding school boards, superintendents, staff accountable. It does not mean leave. It means, so what I'm saying to you is we've done the work to assess. We see what we need, but what we've never done is funded and or supported the school districts to the level that we have assessed. The assessment has come back. If you tell me you need this and I do less than that, then I have not given you the opportunity, Steve, to be successful at those areas where you're deficient. So now we're saying through another diversionary program, we're going to take resources away and send you somewhere else. When are we going to put the resources in public education?
Well, Mr. Bragg, back to you then. Why not? Why doesn't the General Assembly, rather than using the private school avenues, using that approach, address the deficiencies in the existing system through the existing system?
We've been doing that every year, cycle through the adequacy program. We put a lot of money back into public education, and I'm not disparaging public education, but I want to talk about the scope and the impact. We're talking about 571 students. The scholarship is for $7,000. That's the foundation money, for the current fiscal cycle. So we're talking about 571 students. That's 0.1% of the public school, population. And when you look at it on a financial basis per school district, this is privately funded. These are private funds that are going into the fund. It's 100% tax credit. So that does come out of the general fund, but the schools... Well,
and that makes it sort of public money, though, does it not, sir? I mean, when you're awarding a tax credit, you're...
Yes, sir. Yeah, but the thing is, the state is not spending that $7,000 on another student. And so we're talking about, depending on the size of the school, you're talking about tenths and hundredths of a percent of a school budget. So usually when this topic is brought up, when I go into a public school, invariably, and I believe they're sincere, they talk about it's all about the child, it's all about the student, and I believe that. They're very sincere. They're good. We got good teachers and administrators, but it's all about the child as long as that child is in their school. But as soon as we start talking about a student that might not have a need met in their school and that student leaves the school, then it immediately turns to the money, losing the money from that foundation funding and accountability for private schools. It's not a discussion about the need and the betterment of the student. It's more about the system.
If I may, Steve.
Mr. Murdock, go ahead.
Okay, so let's take Representative Bragg's point here. And if you so feel, you and whomever feel as you do, that this methodology that you're using is what's needed and what's good for some, then if you truly feel this way, why not do it for all? You say it's good. You say it's necessary. You say it can make us better. So my point to you is, let's not do separation. Let's not do partial. If it's good, let's do it for everybody, if it's truly determined to be good for everybody. Now, what say you?
I say not every student needs this. It's not necessary for every student. Public schools are doing a great job. We're just talking about an isolated number of special needs here that for one reason or another aren't being met in the public schools. I mean, public schools just can't provide.
Well, the Arkansas Constitution, though, Mr. Bragg, doesn't make a distinction with kids with special needs. It's an adequate education for every Arkansas student.
Right.
So?
Yes.
So it doesn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If a parent feels like their student is not getting that adequate education, then they should have the opportunity to seek an alternative.
Well, does the state not have an obligation, though, to provide that opportunity?
Yes, they do.
At the school,
and in some instances, it may not be being done.
All right, Mr. Murdock, if I can ask you, are we being, as Mr. Bragg seems to suggest, are we being too concerned here with process at the expense of outcome for the student?
No, I don't think so. I think what we're concerned about is the student, and we also are concerned about the whole community and the overall picture, the big picture. So I understand what he's saying as he relates to special needs and students with various issues and challenges. When I came through in the early 80s, I had those as well. But what we were taught to do inside of our systems then, where you did not have this choice opportunity, was to learn how to persevere, hold school boards, staff, administration accountable for what they were not doing. And we can do a better job at that, Representative Bragg. The answer is not to peel off this infinite percentage, this small percentage of students and go and send them elsewhere. Why not just put the energy right here and fix it? If it's such a small 571 students, we can do that.
Well, back to Mr. Bragg there, and I'll let you close for your bill, sir. But there is, as Mr. Murdock notes, there is once again significant opposition from public school, as you've acknowledged, public school administrators, board members.
There is, and I totally agree with Representative Murdock. I'm totally for putting more funding into these programs, but that does take some time. And as a parent, do I keep my child in a situation for several years, indeterminate number of years, until that program is fixed, or do I seek an alternative? Yes, there's a lot of opposition from the superintendents and administrators, but we've done polling of constituents in various districts, and the majority of constituents are in favor of this specific tax credit bill.
Well, I know, if I may, I know you have time issues, Steve, but I've had those in my district, even Representative Bragg, to come to me and send me an email or text and say, hey, support this. This is good. But once they got inside the bill and they spoke with me, they understood what it would do, and they were really hurt that they were becoming a part of something that was just seemed a carrot was brought to them, and they seen it, took a hold of it, but they found out what this really is, and it's really not what it's intended to be or what it says to be on the face. We have to keep our resources inside our school district. I'm not just talking about funding, Representative Bragg. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about accountability for resources. The whole picture needs to be addressed, and we can do it within our public school system.
Well, Mr. Bragg, I gave you... Go ahead, Mr. Bragg, but we've got just seconds.
I totally agree with you about the accountability part. It needs to be addressed, and we're not discounting that at all. I'm in total agreement with Representative Murdock there.
Got to end it there, gentlemen, because we're simply out of time. Thank you for yours, and come back soon.
Okay.
Mr. Murdock, Mr. Bragg, thanks for being with us. Senate Bill 6 It would outlaw essentially all abortion in Arkansas, save for pregnancies that endanger a woman's life. No exceptions for pregnancies resulting from rape or incest. Its advocates acknowledge it is an effort to force the U.S. Supreme Court's hand, compel it to revisit the landmark Roe v. Wade decision of a half-century ago. As expected, the bill sailed through the Senate, as expected, on very nearly a party line vote, and it's now before a House committee. Joining us is the primary sponsor of Senate Bill 6, Senator Jason Rapert, Republican of Conway. And from the opposite end of the Capitol, Representative Tippi McCullough, Democrat of Little Rock, the House Minority Leader. To both of you, thanks very much for coming on. Mr. Rapert, we'll begin with you. Senator, the bill was almost assured of passage, but there were, even among some of your colleagues, some reservations because of the absence of an exception for rape, for incest.
Well, thank you for having me on, Steve. And actually, Senate Bill 6 is literally an exact duplicate of the bill that we passed 2 years ago as a trigger bill. And that trigger bill stated that at the very moment that there is a case that would overturn Roe v. Wade, that Arkansas would abolish abortion except to save the life of a mother. And that is actually the very same language, basically, of Amendment 68 that was passed by the Arkansas voters in 1988, added to the Constitution, which said that we protect life from the moment of conception in Arkansas, except to save the life of the mother. And so this is a bill that already had been discussed and had already passed out without any exception for rape or incest. And as science has improved over time, we have seen people recognize the humanity of the baby in a mother's womb. And so, yes, there was a few that used what I call the tired old arguments of the Planned Parenthood, which tried to use 1% of the situations to justify continuing abortions in 100% of the cases. And so in the Senate, as you say, it passed 27-7. It actually was bipartisan. We did have a Democrat that has consistently been pro-life that voted for the bill, which is definitely expected. And I want to speak to, because I have seen people, unfortunately, falling into some of this argument. Now, remember, Arkansas Right to Life asked me to file this bill. Arkansas Right to Life is an affiliate of National Right to Life. Arkansas Family Council endorses it. Bishop Taylor with the Arkansas Catholic Diocese has endorsed this bill. Every single pro-life bill that has spoken and reached out to us has endorsed SB 6 to protect the lives of unborn children. There are over 62 million little babies that have died in America since 1973, and we believe this is absolutely a crime against humanity. One last thing on this before we debate a little further, and that is that in the prohibition section of the bill, Steve, just as it said in 2019, it says there is no prohibition on the use of any contraceptive measure of any kind up until a point that a pregnancy could be medically detected. So if anybody was involved in a rape or there was a horrible incestuous situation, unless somebody is trying to conceal that matter, there is nothing that prevents emergency contraception. And so we believe what we want to do here in Arkansas is take a strong stand for life. And the Arkansas people are behind us on that. I've had over 50,000 new signatures in this week of people supporting this bill.
Well, Senator, I've got to go to your House colleague over there, Ms. McCullough. Your response.
Thank you, Steve, also for having me today. And hello, Senator Rapert. Our position on this has been similarly consistent as Senator Rapert's has. We believe that this is a difficult issue to talk about. In a perfect world here in Arkansas, we would love for women to be able to have their children, make the decision to have their children and be able to raise those children in a very productive society where they are well supported. But we also know that that people are running into circumstances to where their circumstances aren't perfect and they have hardships. And some of those choices demand that women be able to choose the best path forward for herself and for her family. When the least of these issues is that the bill is unconstitutional, we know that this is a particularly bad bill. Two of the horrible circumstances are that there are no exceptions for rape or incest. So if a woman is raped by a stranger, or by a family member or anyone, there's no exceptions. And this bill is cruel in that way. We do know what the bill does, including wasting tons of taxpayer money that's already been wasted and will continue to be, defending a bill that's blatantly unconstitutional. Here are a few things it doesn't do. It doesn't do anything to help our maternal or infant mortality rate. It doesn't do anything to help with early childhood care. It doesn't do anything to help provide pre-K, and it doesn't feed hungry children, and it doesn't provide jobs to help families. And it's not even the first of its kind to be filed in the U.S. There are others out there. So our position is this will not make abortions go away. Nothing will unless we start doing things to help people be more successful with their family. What we want to do is, if we're going to go back to the days of people who have means and money being able to find a way to have abortions, and then poor people being put in impossible circumstances where we will see some of them die.
Yeah, 2 points, Senator Rapert. One, the absence of a woman who would be the victim of a rape or an incestuous episode, compelling her to carry that child to term does seem a bit pinched. So your response to that and to Ms. McCullough's point that, it's frequently said that anti-abortion forces are more concerned with a fetus than they are with a child. So let me let you answer that.
Well, thank you. And that's totally untrue. Representative McCullough is just regurgitating the same old points that Planned Parenthood and every organization that wants to keep killing babies in our country gives to her. Number one, let me just tell you that in Arkansas, we have the safe haven law. All 50 states in the nation have the same similar law. We even have what is called the safe haven baby box, Steve. And we had a little baby that was presented in and saved in one of those baby boxes just a few months ago here in the state of Arkansas. And the law says that if a woman does not want to take care of a child or feels that she can't take care of a child, she can turn that baby over immediately to the state of Arkansas, and we will care for that baby. Representative McCullough also forgets all of the great work that we've done in the state of Arkansas to expand services to take care of children and mothers and those that are indigent in our state. And so it's very odd that we have people arguing to kill a human being. And this is the essence of what this is. And so it's very, very odd for me to hear this. It's sad for me because Arkansas has done everything we could to care for someone and give them an opportunity to save the baby. As for the rape and incest, there is nothing whatsoever that prevents someone from having emergency contraception, period. End of story. And so what they're wanting to say is that that is not there, but the fact is we specifically left that emergency contraception in place so that we know there are situations of that kind. But we also have rape victims, Steve, that came and testified for this bill and tell us about the depression and the medical harm that was done to them through abortions, that many of them had no idea what they were really doing in the long run. And when you hear from those people and you hear from adopted children that were the product of rape or incest, how could anyone say killing a human being is the right choice?
So, Senator, I've got to give your colleague equal time here because we're running short of it. Ms. McCullough.
Thank you. I respect Senator Rapert and his, I think, what are very sincere views on this subject. So I hope that he will also respect mine. I do not intend to regurgitate or just give talking points out to someone who has handed them to me just to do that. I feel very strongly about this issue, just as he does. And I think, I'm not for killing a human being. Whether it's at birth or all the way to something issue like the death penalty or capital punishment. I'm happy to partner with somebody to end that also if we want to be truly consistent on that issue. But I agree. We are doing good things to improve Arkansas, but there is so much more that we can do. And by wasting money and all the time that we do on this issue and everything, there are so many more things that we could do to help proactively prevent abortions from happening in the first place. But also that respect of a woman, instead of publicly shaming, punishing, and bullying women when they should have the choice to make their own decisions, is a big issue also.
Mr. Rapert, Ms. McCullough, we are simply out of time. We thank you for yours. Thanks for bringing some light to the issue. Thank you, and come back soon. And that's our program for this week. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and we'll see you next week.
Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and KUAR-FM 89.